Hey, welcome back, our ghostly friends. I'm Pat, and I am hashtag Team Skeptic.
And I'm Rebecca, and I am hashtag Team Believer.
And with us today is Armando Kent. You might remember him from our Christmas special. Mondo, why don't you say hi?
Hi, I'm hashtag right down the middle.
I don't believe you on that one. I believe you're hashtag believer too.
Yay!
Yeah, believer most of the time, but there's sometimes that, there's obviously rubbish, something that, definitely isn't real.
Yeah, like all ghost stories. As always, we're going to talk about our poll results from the last episode, which was Ladies of Bachelor's Grove.
Yes. So we actually had two polls that we did. First was, do you believe that the Madonna or the Lady in White of Bachelor's Grove is real? And this one, interesting. We had three choices, and it looks like just barely the winner was no, it's just a legend.
Oh, just barely?
Barely.
Yeah, by 50%.
Well, 50%, but 30, the others were divided. So I think we should add them together. Because it's 33% for yes, I'm a believer, and 16 for I'm not sure. And to me, those are both believers.
No, I'm sorry. I won that one. All right, what about the other?
So the other poll was for our spirit box, and this one was split. So 50% said they could hear something, and 50% said no, they could not.
Yeah, but interesting enough, I only received one person's feedback of what they heard and when they heard it, and I went back and listened to it, and I didn't hear that.
Shocking that you didn't hear it.
Mondo, I think I sent it to you. Did you get a chance to re-listen to it?
Yeah, I did. I think I heard the score to the Cubs game.
Yeah, and they won.
They did.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, that
it was
would
a little
be
hard
crazy
to tell,
because that was in the middle of December, so that wouldn't have been.
Yeah, well,
see,
yeah, I don't know. See,
well,
it's
I heard Bachelor's Grove, so
I heard absolutely nothing, but as Mondo coined the phrase, rubbish. Rubbish. All right. Well, today is our St. Valentine's Day Massacre special.
Woohoo!
Yeah. It's a very special day for us. It's our Valentine's Day episode. And Rebecca, what's the first thing that comes to mind when I say Valentine's Day?
Flowers.
Flowers?
Yes. I like getting flowers on Valentine's Day.
Oh, okay. I see. And Mondo, how about you?
Candy.
Candy?
Lots of candy.
Oh, those little sweetheart things?
They're not out
the ones
this
that melt in
year.
your
Did
mouth.
you hear that?
No.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
They're not.
Why?
I don't know what. I didn't hear why. What did you hear? Why?
Yeah, because kids were putting together these secret messages and they were making people sext each other. Then no, I'm just kidding. I have no idea why.
What?
It's kids' candy. Like drink more Ovaltine.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
how about you, Pat? What do you think of when you think of Valentine's Day?
What I think of is I think of the north side of Chicago and of daytime murder because I think about St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Woo!
And that's what today's episode is going to be about. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre is a mobster story, but some would say that it crosses over into a more ghostly part of Chicago history. Mm-hmm. And I know my believers here would agree with that.
Oh, we're going to talk about it.
We are?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
But first,
Yeah.
you can give us the history.
Yeah, and it's got a very interesting history. We are going to tell you the real story of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Ooh.
As best we know it.
Okay.
St. Valentine's Day Massacre takes place, oddly enough, on February 14th, 1929. And let's put that time period into some kind of perspective, because to me that always helps grasp history a little bit. So Prohibition started January 17th, 1920 and ended December 4th, 1933. And the Great Depression didn't start until October 29th, 1929.
Oh, and so that's kind of interesting. So February is when this happened, and then
Yes.
October was the big crash.
Yeah, so we're already 9 years into Prohibition, which made the mob a very profitable business in Chicago. And it was before the Great Depression, so people had money to spend still.
Yeah.
If it was after the Great Depression, there wouldn't be as much money. Capone might have decided to do things a little bit differently. This is the reason Al Capone, the leader of the South Side Gang, felt it was time to take over Chicago. But he needed to go through his rival, George Bugs Moran, and the North Side Gang. During my research, I was like, why Bugs? Like Scarface, Al Capone makes sense. He had a scar on his face. But Bugs, that didn't make any sense. And that's because he was crazy.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought he had fleas.
Yeah, he might have, I mean, being on the north side, if he was in the clean
I was
south
gonna
side
say,
area.
this is really hard for me because, we have a north side, south side thing. And it's sad that my north side.
Yeah. But oddly enough, I'm a Cubs fan, though. So,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So Moran was a strict Catholic and was disgusted that Capone engaged in the prostitution business. So Capone had it all. He had gambling, he had booze, and he had prostitutes. It was sort of a one-stop shop for all men of those days. They can get all their needs fulfilled. There's a long history between these two gangsters. They kept one-upping each other. One would kill the other person's hitman, and then the other person would. It just went on and on and on. But what really pushed the St. Valentine's Day Massacre into happening was Moran made a failed assassination attempt on Capone at his headquarters at the Hawthorne Inn, which is in Cicero, Illinois, or was. I don't know if it's still there.
Yeah, I don't know. But man, if you're going to
so.
try to take out Capone, you better succeed.
Yeah. Well,
definitely.
they tried. They tried their absolute best. Moran's men shot more than 1,000 rounds at the inn and a nearby restaurant, but failed to hit their target.
Wow. If that place is still around, I'm sure there's a lot of bullet holes.
Yeah, I don't think it's around. Mondo, do you know if it's around?
No, I don't believe it is.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Cicero's changed a lot. But oddly enough, it still had a lot of prostitution for many, many years after this. So.
I think you could find a lot of bullet holes in a lot of places too.
Yeah,
that's
probably, yeah.
true.
So the setup was the day before Valentine's Day, Moran received a phone call offering him a large shipment of booze from Detroit at a discount price. Moran arranged to have this delivered the next day at 10:30 a.m. to his headquarters at the SMC Cartage Company, where he kept all of his bootleg trucks.
Now, you would think that you would be a little suspicious if someone called you and was like, hey, I've got some extra booze that I can give you at a discounted price tomorrow. And you would not suspect.
You would think, but Moran was besides just being nuts, he was also a little slow.
Oh.
Yeah, so obviously we know that this was a setup, but he didn't at the time. And at 10:30 a.m., two cars pulled up at the garage at the SMC Cartage Company at 2122 North Clark Street on Valentine's Day. One was a police car, and the other was a green and black 1927 Cadillac sedan. Ooh. 4 people got out of the 2 vehicles. 2 were dressed like police officers, and 2 were in plain clothes. The 2 mock police officers busted into the building and declared that it was a raid and ordered the 7 men there to stand up against a whitewashed wall. Then the 2 plainclothes men came in, and they had Tommy guns.
So crazy.
Yeah. They opened up on all 7 men. By the way, 6 of these were mobsters, and one of them was an eye doctor that just liked to hang around with mobsters.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was the end of him.
I guess if you hang out with mobsters, you end up sleeping with the fishes.
Yeah, or you get a horse head in your bed. I don't know how they actually got the horse head into the bed without the person waking up, but okay, whatever.
Okay.
So they sprayed 90 rounds with the 2 Tommy guns, 1 shotgun, and a revolver.
Just for good measure. Revolver.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, one of the police officers had a revolver.
Oh, that would.
It wouldn't
police
look right.
officers in quotes.
Yeah, it wouldn't look right if they had Tommy guns because the
true.
police didn't carry Tommy guns. They had shotguns and revolvers.
That's true.
All 7 men were killed except for Frank Gusenberg.
Oh.
But they did not get Moran, oddly enough. Moran slept in that day, and when he showed up at the SMC, he noticed that a police car was outside his business and thought it was a raid as well, so he ducked into a corner restaurant where he could see everything from there.
I see.
Yeah. And what was kind of sad about this, I don't know how sad because they're all mobsters, but except for the eye doctor.
Yeah.
The real police didn't show up for a long time after this because none of the neighbors called them. Because what they saw was police officers going into this business, and they heard noises, and then they saw the
Right.
police officers leave.
Mm-hmm.
So they thought that the police actually dealt with whatever
Right.
was going on. But Frank Gusenberg, when they did find him, he was still alive.
Mm-hmm.
And they rushed him to the hospital, and he had been shot 14 times. And they asked him, "Who shot you?" And reportedly he said, "Nobody shot me."
Wow, loyal to the end to the mobster code.
Yeah, and then he died.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's never really been tied to Al Capone, although, come on, we all know it was Al Capone that did it. In fact, in 2009, the other vehicle, not the police squad car that was burned afterwards, was found. And they believe that it drove from the St. Valentine's Day Massacre to Dearborn and was put in a garage and was walled in.
Oh.
Wow.
And then it's recently turned up.
If only that's the room that Geraldo had tried to get
Right,
into. He
right,
would have found
yeah.
something. Man.
Well, he did find stuff. He found old beer bottles.
I was so excited for that as a kid. I was so excited that whole night.
Nobody that's outside of Chicago has any idea what we're talking about at this moment. But I watched that 3-hour special too.
The whole
Yeah.
thing. The
Yeah.
whole thing.
In fact, I didn't want to leave when there was a commercial because they might just cut back in, you know. So Capone was never actually tied to the crime. He had a very solid alibi during this time that he was in his Miami house. So it's kind of hard to shoot people from Miami to Chicago.
Yeah, but you can give the order for someone to shoot someone else.
And he definitely did. St. Valentine's Day Massacre pretty much ended Bugs Moran's control over the north side of Chicago. Oddly enough, though, Capone passed away before Moran did. But Capone died of syphilis.
Yes.
Actually, cardiac arrest.
Wow.
That was attributed to the...
48 years old, I think, when he died.
That's possible.
I think that's what I
That's
read.
possible.
Yep.
So, do you guys have anything more to add for the history?
I don't think so. He
No.
did a pretty good
No,
job.
that-
Yeah.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
By the
good
way,
story.
the weather that day was around 24 degrees.
Oh, okay.
And you'll notice if you watch some of the movies about the St. Valentine's Day Massacre that it was snowing. It was not snowing.
Oh, okay. There were no
So-
footprints, what you're saying.
Well, there was snow the day before.
Oh, okay.
And since it was 24 degrees, the snow was still there, but it was not currently snowing. So, bam, I just blew open the whole movie that day. I'm a movie skeptic, too.
There you go.
Now, Rebecca, I know you have some ghost stories that revolve around the infamous story of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, and Mondo's here for a purpose as well, and we will get into that.
Oh yeah. So the history that Pat just told us was really just the start of the story in a lot of ways. So since the massacre happened, it was obviously famous. It's something that everyone heard of in the newspapers. It's actually increased the police looking into Al Capone because
Yes.
even though they couldn't arrest him, they knew that
this
it was him.
This was daytime murder too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that was
Really
not common in
shocking.
those days. It was really like a slap in the face of the police.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that's what triggered like a lot of the
Gun laws,
that, and I mean just
Awareness?
awareness, investigating the mob, because
Yeah.
before that they pretty much allowed them to do what they wanted, but once that kind of thing happened, it was like, suddenly, they had a lot of eyes on them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, really shocking. Well, and just one thing, did you mention where, like the address?
Yeah,
of where-
2122 North Clark.
Yeah, so we went on a tour, Mondo and his wife and us. We went on a tour in Chicago, and we went to the location where this is, and it weirded me out because I've walked by this location many times and had no idea that that's where it was, because they tore down the building, and kind of bring that up later. But it's right across the street from this pizza place that I love. And I just was like, I can't believe that I've walked by this.
What's
so
the
many
name of that
times.
pizza place?
Oh, Chicago Pizza and Oven Grinders.
Oh,
It's
yeah. Hey, did you want to bring up your connection with the place across the street?
We once produced a mold for them, and of their ovens that they sell.
Wow.
I mean, their oven is like the key to their business.
Yeah, really. I mean, because they make like pizza pot pies.
Yeah.
It looks like.
Crust on the top.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's delicious. Anyways, okay, so ghost stories. So I'm going to, there's kind of three different ones.
All right, let's do them one at a time.
One at a time. So first is Al Capone himself believed that he was haunted by the ghost of one of the people that was killed in the massacre, James Clark, who was the brother-in-law of George Moran. He started seeing him, Capone started seeing Jimmy when he was sent to jail for a concealed weapons charge. And then he continued to see him after he got out. He saw him when he was in Alcatraz. He saw him just always. He was just constantly in his life, and he fully believed that he was being haunted by Jimmy. He even hired a psychic at one point named Alice Britt to try and get rid of the spirit, and it did not work.
Ooh, I have a good idea of why. But Mondo, do you have anything to add to that one?
As far as I've heard, Jimmy was he was already in the advanced stages of syphilis. Al Capone was, and then so they didn't know if it was because of that he was seeing this ghost or something else.
Yeah.
But I always found it funny, from what I've read, is that they actually let him out for good behavior at that point.
Yeah.
Because he's up all night screaming. So it was like, this guy's got to go.
And
also, he was only in there for tax evasion too.
Yeah.
That's
not
true.
for Moida.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say too, is that I really believe that it was the syphilis, because that is one of the things that can happen to you during syphilis is it causes brain damage. And he was known to have gone crazy right at the very end.
Yeah, one of his guys was asked if he was ever going to come back and go back to work for the Chicago gang, and the guy said that he's as nutty as a fruitcake.
Yeah, and they have a lot of nuts in those fruitcakes. So, yeah.
Well, I'm going to save some of my evidence for the debate of why there are some reasons why we might believe his being haunted. But
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I thought this was kind of the debate too, so I gave away that. So I'll let you just tell the ghost story part then.
So then the another ghost story is that the location itself is haunted. So it had several small businesses over the years. Actually, I just think just two. But people never stopped coming by. So I talked about, it was very famous, this thing that happened. And it always was a point of interest. People have always been drawn to it. And so there's a lot of energy with that. But with those people that always came by, even after the building they tore down the building in the hopes that this would stop people from wanting to come to this place in 1967, but it hasn't stopped anybody. They fenced it off. They planted a tree right where the wall was, where everyone got shot. But it's basically been considered haunted ever since the event happened. So some of the things people have seen would be unusual light or mists have been reported. Male voices are heard, even though there's no one that they seem to come from. There's also sounds of screaming. Obviously, we can imagine why that would be. Machine gun fire can still be heard by people living around there or passing by. Sensitive people who stand in front of the fence line or walk by it will have a sense of fear. Animals will also react and have a sense of fear for no particular reason. Mondo, I was going to ask you, do you remember he talked about on our tour, our thing about the old folks home that's
Correct.
right there? Did they hear things too? Was that part of it?
I believe he said that, but a couple of things, and this is going to sound like from the skeptical side, but when they start talking about hearing screaming and voices and things like that, I mean, it is an old folks home that's right there. So, I mean, I think that might explain that. The other thing, when, dogs walk by and they kind of get weirded out, well, you ever smell an old folks home? And it is next to a field. And for all we know, they might just be looking and sensing something in that field that came from old people.
Yeah. Well, I have more to add to that, but I'm going to wait for the debate part of it. Not during the ghost story part of it.
Okay. So I have one more.
Okay.
Which a thing that is haunted, which is the bricks themselves. So I mentioned that they had planted a tree where the wall once stood, but the wall itself was not destroyed. So a little bit of history here. When they decided to tear down the building, there was a Canadian businessman named George Patey, I think is his last name, Patey. I
think it was Patty.
Patty?
Patty, me mean.
Yeah, he was Canadian. I don't know. Bought the wall from the city. They carefully labeled them with a grid of letters and numbers so that it could be perfectly reconstructed. So there was a 412 bricks. Now there's some rumors that some of the construction workers stole some of the bricks. What? But anyway, so he took the bricks and he opened a Roaring 20s themed bar in 1972 in Canada, and he reconstructed the wall in the men's bathroom. So women were allowed in twice a week to see it.
Were the guys urinating while they came in?
So here's the thing. I was confused by this. Why in the world would you put this in the men's bathroom?
Yeah.
He put plexiglass in front of it so that the guys could see if they could hit particular bricks.
Oh, okay.
When they went to the bed. I don't know. It's really weird.
Those Canadians.
Weird.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, we do like Canadians, and if you are from Canada, please keep listening to the show. We're not making fun of you, Canadians.
Okay, I'm just gonna say
I like your maple syrup.
Boys are weird.
It
So
was just that one guy.
Just the one guy, yeah. Just the one Canadian in particular.
Okay. So the club closed after a few years. Gee, surprise. He put the bricks in storage and then tried to sell them. I read a couple different versions of this. So some say he first tried to sell them as a whole block, but couldn't. Others say he never tried to do that and he just sold them individually for $1,000 and then had many of them returned to him because people were like, nope, they're haunted. So they had bad luck in the form of illnesses, financial ruin, divorce, death. It was like one of those things like they're possessed or they have bad mojo. And so they returned them saying, I can't, there's too much negative energy with this brick. So what exactly happened to all the bricks is unknown. But when Patey died, his niece, Kendall O'Leary, yes, O'Leary. Come on, Chicago.
So that's from the Great Chicago Fire.
There
right?
you go. I'm sure there's no relation, but I thought that was interesting.
I love how we celebrated too. The Great Chicago Fire. It was great. It was wonderful.
It was a sight to see.
Yeah.
But she inherited over 416 bricks that he had. So she sold them to the Las Vegas Mob Museum, where you can go today and see them all reconstructed with obviously a few holes
And some urine.
No, there was plexiglass.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that sums up your ghost stories then, right? And Mondo's with us today for a very special reason. We did have something happen to us when we went on the ghost tour and we were at the St. Valentine's Day Massacre location. So would you like to talk about that?
Sure.
All right. Would you like to describe for us what happened in this picture? It's a live picture, so it's more like a video.
Yeah. Okay, so I've been to that same site. I mean, myself, like Rebecca had mentioned that she's been there. And I mean, I've gone past there. I've just strolled past, and every time I did know that was where, the massacre took place. And I've always looked for something just because, and I think one time I saw an old guy behind the tree doing something, but yeah.
Wow.
And
maybe he was urinating.
He was
too.
the source of the urine. Yeah. And see, that's why animals would be freaked out. But basically, I've never seen anything over there. That being said, I want to see something, maybe, and I mean, so my mind's going to, think I want to believe if I can. I mean, or at least, I want to be able to see something if it's, so that I then have an opinion, just like anyone else,
Absolutely.
And anyway, we went on the Ursula Bileski tour, and that was one of the stops. And when we got out, we walked over there, I started taking some pictures. And I really didn't look at the pictures. I just took several images, and usually that's what they, ask you to do. So I just held up my my phone and I took a couple of live photos, which gives you like a second before and a second after. So basically it's like a 2-second video.
Yeah.
And I just I took several images. One to the south, one to the west of the yard, and then one of the tree in that area. So we got home, and the very next day, I'm just kind of looking through my photos, and just for the heck of it, when I got to that one photo, I noticed like a little white spot in there. So I kind of zoomed in on it, and that's when I remembered it was a live photo. So I went to the editing section where you can kind of scroll back and forth just to see, those couple frames before and after.
Yeah.
And when I did that, that's when I was shocked, because that white spot that I first saw actually looked more like a miniature comet. And when I backed it up, it looked like it jumped from the tree, and it kind of did a little spiral, turned around a couple times, and then went back into the tree.
It did a little dance.
It did. Yeah. And
it boogie woogied.
and it did it very well.
Yeah.
So because I've never seen anything like that. And, I was happy to actually have that, that I'm looking at something that I took. It wasn't a case where somebody else is trying to explain it or show me something. I'm like, that's a Photoshop. But this is clearly something I took. And I mean, it's something.
It looks like purposeful movement.
Yeah.
It's not just random or a light moving steadily or anything like that. It's definitely seems purposeful to me.
I don't know how purposeful it is, because it does not go in a set pattern. If it was purposeful, it would do a figure 8 or a square or a triangle. It goes all over the place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
well,
I would not say purposeful for that.
Yeah. And I've shown it to people, and I've tried to kind of look at it like what it could possibly be. Was it somebody with a light pen or something like that? But the one thing that stands out when I look at it is it's not light that's projected onto a solid surface like the building behind it. And if that were the case, when it came from the tree, how did it like dance in midair and then go back? Wouldn't it have looked as if it were suddenly on the brick, if it were a light, but instead of that, it's like it's in midair and it does its little thing and shoots off.
Well, I think we need to talk about this more in the debate section.
Nice.
So that I can say what I believe.
Okay.
But I think we are ready to start this debate.
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the Al Capone influence on this story.
So you guys mentioned there's a lot going on with Al Capone and his health, but really the haunting started less than a year after the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. He was in another state, and I, of course, did not write down what the state was, but he got pulled over for a concealed weapons charge. So he actually was in jail for a year before the whole tax evasion
he had a
thing.
Weapon?
Yeah, he did, that he concealed.
Oh, my God.
I know. So when he was in jail, a lot of the inmates and the people heard him screaming Jimmy in his cell, and they would the inmates heard him, the guards heard him, and he had everything in this jail cell. Like, they were still treating him really nicely. Like, he had phones, he could call his lawyer. He was like, there was no, like, he was still running his business from this Eastern State Penitentiary, I think it was. But anyway, so that started then. Once he got out of jail for that, his bodyguards often reported running in to try to save him because they thought he was being attacked, because he would scream and yell for hours in the night. He called that psychic I mentioned. After the psychic came, his valet, his personal valet, Jaime Cornish, claims that he entered the apartment and saw a tall man standing near the window. He demanded to know who the man was, but instead of answering, he slipped behind a curtain and disappeared.
Wait, was he a shadow person?
I think this was Ghost, because he looked like more like a person, not a shadow. And
was he wearing all white?
That I don't know. It's not reported.
Oh, okay.
So Jaime called all the bodyguards in. They searched the room and they could find no one other than Capone. And they did this immediately. And Capone insisted that it was Jimmy that they had seen.
Okay.
And all of this took place long before he was in Alcatraz and before he got really hard. But it was his whole life.
Okay, so, well, not his whole life.
The rest of his life.
Yeah, the rest of his life after the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Okay, so you gave us 3 points now in this. Okay, so the first one, I'm going to say, oh, wait, do you have anything to add before I debate this?
Well, I have a little different debate going on that, but
within yourself?
Yeah, a little bit. Ever since you mentioned it, you talked about how would they get a horse's head into a bed in the Godfather movie, and I've been thinking about it ever since. I hate to say it, but basically, there was a chandelier above the bed, and I believe that they snuck in.
Oh, they hoisted
They
it down.
used a pulley system, and they hoisted the head right down on the bed.
I see.
And he had no idea they were there.
Okay. All right. So now there's 4 points I have to argue here. Okay. So let's go over the first one is just about Al Capone and him calling out for Jimmy.
Mm-hmm.
And as Mondo already said, Al Capone had syphilis. That's what eventually did him in. It was cardiac arrest due to the syphilis that did him in. But syphilis is a horrible disease when it's left untreated. It's highly treatable in the early stages of it, but once you go on, it really, really is a horrible disease. We don't know when he contracted syphilis. I mean, he was with prostitutes all the time. He had plenty of women. In fact, one of our me and Mondo's friends growing up said that she used to see Al Capone, Larry's mom.
Right.
Yeah, used to, date him or something to that effect. So, he was with lots of women. There's no saying when he contracted syphilis.
I thought she said she knew Ozzy Osbourne too.
I think he wanted Whoppers, actually. Oh. Yeah. Anyways, so that is what I'm going to say about the Al Capone Jimmy thing. All right. The second part of it is you said his bodyguards would often rush in thinking he was being attacked. Well, he was screaming because he was mad with syphilis. That's a thing. People do stuff like this when they have advanced syphilis. We don't really see that often anymore because people get treated for this very early on. It's a very simple treatment and it's highly effective. So we don't see that nowadays.
Yeah, the most amazing thing is that, well, the story that I always heard is the reason that he never got medical attention for it was because he was afraid of needles.
Yeah, I heard that too.
It's amazing. You have a guy that can order a hit on somebody, and I'm sure he tortured people in his day, but, bring a needle by him, and I mean, he wants no part of it, even though it's going to ultimately lead to something much, much worse. You know?
Exactly. Now, okay, so to go on to the third point in this, you talked about the psychic. I have nothing to say about her. I have no research done on her.
Yeah, but the
that
sighting
matters not to me at all. But the sighting that the bodyguard, Jaime,
yes,
saw. So if you're in the mob and your boss tells you that he saw something, wouldn't it behoove you to say that you saw the same thing?
But that isn't what happened. He came into the room and saw someone standing there and was like, "Hey, who are you?" And then he disappeared. It wasn't that he walked in and Capone went, look at the guy standing over by the window. He didn't
But still,
say that.
Wouldn't it, Capone might trust you more than if you said that you saw the same thing.
But
or saw something else. He might say, I believe you. Now, why don't you become my main hitman or my second-hand man or my right-hand man instead of Lefty?
He was already his personal valet, so I don't know if he could get much
I don't know.
better than
I'm
that.
just saying, when my boss says that they see something, I see that too.
Well, again, I think it had been going on for a while at that point, so he was maybe a little late to the game if he was doing that.
And also, are we going to believe a mobster chauffeur named Jaime?
Why would he lie?
He's got every reason to lie. Every single reason to lie. First of all, he murders people. Second of all, I'm assuming he cleans blood off the back seat of the car.
I was going to say, we do not want to, tarnish the
Jaime name.
Cornish. Jaime Cornish.
Yeah. And also too, as the chauffeur, he probably saw a lot of things. Let's just say that. Even if he didn't participate, he knew of a lot of things happened.
Right.
This man is riddled with guilt.
So all the reason to keep quiet.
Yeah. Well, I do not believe that for a second. I believe it was in his vested interest to agree with Capone's sightings.
Well, again, it'd be one thing if Capone had said to him, I'm seeing him right now. Do you see him standing here? And he was like, yes, sir, I do see him. Like that, I understand that story, but that isn't the story.
Yes, but what I'm saying is his bodyguards constantly hear him screaming, Jimmy, Jimmy, and then so this chauffeur makes up this story and goes, you know what? I saw somebody in the other room the other day. I really think you're on to something, Mr. Capone, Mr. Scarface. I really believe that this is true. Now, I need to have a surgery for my son, so could you help me out with a couple dollars?
All right. Well, again, as always, the listeners will have to decide. But I do
Yes.
want to make one more point about the syphilis. So I do think that the syphilis certainly could play a part. However, he did not have late stage syphilis for that long. Like the time frame we're talking about was many years before he was at his end. So I don't think that you can attribute the early sightings, the early screamings to just the syphilis.
So also to Jimmy, his Moran's brother-in-law, that is kind of the reason why they did the hit. So there was supposedly watchmen around the area that saw Jimmy and believed that it was Moran. And so they radioed in or called in and said, okay, let's go ahead and do the hit. So Jimmy wasn't necessarily supposed to die. They thought it was Moran. Not that they would save Jimmy, but that's kind of the reason why they did it. So this is, I believe this is a guilt thing too. I mean, Capone killed a lot of people. And for him to feel that some of these people are after him afterwards, I really believe that it's possible that it's guilt. So anyways, we're going to go on to your second point, which is the voices.
Yes.
And the passersby.
So again, there's been, you look around online, a lot of people talk about passersby, hearing things, seeing things. But I'm going to be honest, I could not find any first person accounts of this anywhere. The only thing is I did find a photo that was taken by another ghost, image series people. I'll put the link up that shows a mist. And then obviously to me, the big thing is what Mondo took his own photo. I will also say, going back to previous things that we've talked about with Bachelor's Grove, I was freezing when we were at the St. Valentine's Day Massacre location. And when I thought about it while researching for this, I was not cold at any of the other stops that we made. So I thought that was kind of not anywhere near as cold as that one. So I don't know, if that's anything, but I will say that I was cold while I was there.
It's a field.
It's not a field.
Well,
it's
a vacant spot.
Vacant lot.
So wind definitely can penetrate that and make you cold. And also, too, I was on that tour and I was cold the whole entire time. And I'm not often cold. So that was something to say. It was November, right? It was the week after Thanksgiving, I believe.
Correct.
So, yeah. It was cold outside. That's the reason why you were cold. Yeah, you don't remember it because we didn't walk around the block of any other spot.
Whole House was out in the middle of not like any specific area. Like there wasn't a lot of shield.
We were out there for like 2 minutes. We were out there for like 10, 15 minutes as Tony, our tour director.
Amazing.
Yeah, he was amazing. And as he was talking and he was giving us the history. So we had to walk a block. It was wet out too. I remember that. I think it had just snowed too. Maybe that was like slushy stuff or something like that. I was freezing too, but it was because it was cold outside.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have anything to add to the passersby? I'm going to debate your picture at the end of the debate, though.
Oh,
Okay.
saving the
Yeah.
best for last.
Not really. I think I summed it up earlier, and I've been there a lot of times. I never saw anything. It is odd that there are no other accounts, so I mean, when you read something like that where they're saying, people have said, that's just legend. That's urban legend. People are saying that they hear things or things like that. So, I mean, believe it or not, I'm actually on the skeptical side of things with that. I mean, everything
By the
I've
way,
mentioned.
thank you so much for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate it.
But I thank you for bringing your amazing photo, which totally convinces me.
Exactly. And
I remember that photo.
The photo is what kind of changed my mind about that. I mean, once you finally see something like that, it's like, wow.
I have you down as 0.4 of the 3 points that Rebecca brought up, and then you're the fourth. So I'm going to argue that in its own.
Okay.
I'm going to give you time to argue your case, and I'm going to argue it individually. I'm not going to keep you in the passerby category.
Okay.
So then we have the bricks.
Yes.
All right.
So again, I could not find any firsthand accounts of people who had bricks, said they were had bad luck or had bad things happen to them because of them, and returned them to Patey. So it doesn't mean that there aren't any out there. I just was unable to find them. The only thing I found was on hauntedhouses.com. They went to that mob museum in Las Vegas and had a psychic with them. And I'll give you a quote of what they said. "It is amazing that all the bricks are still together. The bricks are said to have soaked up a boatload of negative energy. While most were kept together, hoping to sell them as a wall, some were smuggled out and sold. However, they were returned when the recipients suffered from bad luck and misfortune." Again, no exact examples. But he said that the wall itself radiates a negative, uncomfortable aura, and I did not get too close.
Okay.
That was it. That's the only evidence I found.
So, okay, so he found it amazing that all these bricks are still together.
Pretty much.
That I think we already explained why that happened. There's nothing supernatural about that.
Yeah.
They were returned to Patey, which was it daughter-in-law or was it
Niece
O'Leary?
Yes.
Gave them to the Vegas mobster museum. That's why they're together. I mean, if they bought them one by one, still there's proof that they went out and got these things. That's not supernatural at all. Now, the radiating aura of these bricks, I can't speak to because I never saw these bricks. But what I will say is that I think that's all a trick of lighting, or it's all in their heads. They know what happened around these things, and there's a whole big ghost story about the bricks bringing bad luck. Also about the bricks. So there's nothing to say that these people wouldn't have had bad luck had they not bought the bricks. Now, I want to bring up a thing about curses. When somebody receives a curse, a lot of it has to do with their mind. A lot of it has to do with them believing in this curse, so much so that they attribute everything to it. And when you wake up in the morning and you say, "Man, today's going to be a really bad day," what's going to stop it from being a bad day? Not much. You already have your mind set on that idea. You already have your mind set that there's going to be bad luck. I just do not believe that we have enough evidence to use these bricks to say that there was really a ghost story there.
Yeah, it's not like anybody's going to look at the bricks and say, "You know what? I got these bricks that were used for this, horrible slaying, and you wouldn't believe it. I won the lotto the next day."
Exactly, right?
Yeah, it wouldn't be as good. And I mean, of course, there's going to be something negative to go with that. You're always going to say that. So
also, too, why did people purchase these bricks? Was it because they needed bricks? No, it was because they were from the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. They go into it with the idea that they are buying something from this very
yeah, it's like, "Oh, those are the bricks?
Yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah.
Very, very bad."
Yeah, well, so I'm going to keep them in my house
Yeah.
now. You know, I don't know.
And then you're going to say every bad thing that happens after that is attributed to those bricks.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to shock you and say that I also don't believe that the bricks are
What?
haunted. No.
What?
I do think there's a chance that Capone was haunted, and I do think that there's potential energy that's at the location itself that manifests itself on occasion, but I do not think that the bricks are haunted. I found no evidence whatsoever for that. I found a really great blog I'll post the link to of a guy who's been following the wall and Patey and all this for many years, and he makes it absolutely clear that he's found no evidence of haunting.
Okay, well, then I guess we could move on. And the last point would be Mondo's photo.
Ooh.
Now, Rebecca, would you like to say anything first before I speak?
No, just that I've seen it and I found it believable. It was creepy and I was not able to explain it. And it was weird because I was there and I did not see this. So it's definitely something that was captured on photo. And again, I know Mondo and I was there when he took this photo, and I know in my heart that he did not Photoshop it. You know, we can argue other things
I don't know.
about
He's good.
it.
He's good at Photoshop. He is, actually. So.
Well, someday we'll get to my story because, of course, you know I have a story. But part of that story is that it happened with my best friend. And it's one of those things where I believe her with my whole heart. Like, I know that she believes me, you know, so it's like this, if there's one person in the world you can trust, it's this person. And so I
don't trust him at all. He's very shady. No, I'm just kidding.
But anyway, so to me that just takes that to another level of trusting the photo.
Okay. So, Mondo, what would you like to say before I get into my defense of your photo?
The photo's real. That's it. And you know, it's, if you look at it, and like you guys had mentioned, it was a cold day in November, so it's not like it was a bug, you know. It wasn't light, as I explained earlier. I don't believe that it was somebody, you know, playing a trick and shining a light. It definitely wasn't Photoshop. I didn't add anything to the photo whatsoever.
I disagree. I think it was light. But okay. And anything else?
I don't think light is going to bounce around like a boomerang and it fly from the haunted tree and go back to the haunted tree.
Absolutely it can. That's the whole idea behind light, is that it can be, it could move. You know, like if I have my watch on and light's reflecting off my watch, when I move my wrist, what happens to the reflection? It moves.
Yeah.
So, okay, here's my thing. I think your photo is very interesting. How often do you look at pictures you took on your cell phone and search for something like an orb when they weren't taken at such a site like this?
Never.
Right?
Yet I'm not looking for it. And after this happened, I started looking for it. So once I found something, I'm like, I'm going to go through all my photos and see what else I have. I have a lot of photos. I couldn't find anything.
But I'm just saying that you looked because of where we were.
Sure.
So.
And, well, actually, I wasn't even looking, let's say, for something like that. I was just looking at the photos, and it was a light that caught my eye.
Okay.
You know, when I got to that photo,
light.
I was like, you know,
The light.
What is that? It was like circular in the first picture, and I just kind of zoomed in and was like, that's interesting. And then I went. That's when I hit edit, and I looked at it, and you know, it was moving in a way that I don't think light is, you know, is going to do that.
Sure. So, is it possible that this light or whatever it is that you think that you saw could have come from something other than a spirit?
I don't know. I'm when it comes down to that, I mean, I'm just as curious as anybody else as to what it is, basically. Okay. So, you know, I'm not fully convinced that it's a spirit, but I'm interested in what other people's opinions are of it.
So, that's a vacant lot. It's pretty big vacant lot. I would say it's like a double-sized lot for that area. Maybe even a triple-sized lot.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
It's really big. It's a big open area around that area.
I mean, it was a garage that had trucks and stuff in it. So it was a big space.
It's pretty big. And there are buildings around that particular spot. And I'm just thinking, could it have been a neighbor turning on a desk light or something like that, moving this desk light? I know you don't believe it's light, but it had to be because we didn't see it. You know, it had to be a light source because it showed up in the photo without us seeing it with our eyes.
Right, and that's what I couldn't explain. I didn't see it with my own eyes. It wasn't until I got home and looked at the photo.
Yeah. Could it have, is it possible? Is there even a slight possibility that it could be a neighbor kid messing with us, knowing that we're there on a ghost tour?
I'm going to say no on that one. Because if a kid was making, first of all, we would have seen it. They would have flashed it in our eyes. They would have done like a kid wants to get noticed. So if some kid is like pointing some like oddly very focused flashlight that you see no trail of light coming to the spot, just the spot itself, like they would, if they had some sort of machine that could do that, they would totally be doing it on the ground. They'd want to make sure that the whole group of people saw it and like make a big thing about it.
Okay, but is it possible that it's some kind of outside source that we are not thinking of? It could be like a car headlight or something like that. Or as I said, like the watch thing. I have inadvertently shined light into people's eyes a lot with my watch just because of the way that I hold it up. And sometimes I keep going just because, you know, I hate people. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I mean, it is possible that there is some kind of outside source. And because of that possibility, I do not believe we can take this as evidence to say that it is definitely proof that there is an existence of ghost at this location. Also, too, with orbs, we don't really know that orbs are ghost. That's what our assumption is. Mondo does not look happy.
No, you're like way over a minute. You know?
No, this isn't the closing arguments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're going to get your minute, man.
Oh,
You'll get a
okay.
minute.
All right.
So that's all I got to say about that.
Honestly, I think it's time for closing arguments. We're ready.
It sounded like a closing argument to me.
It did a
You were
little
like
bit.
working into there. So it's like the pre-closing argument.
Yeah,
Well, that's the
how
debate.
he keeps it to a
Yeah.
minute.
That's the debate. That's why we have this section
Having
called the
someone that
debate.
supports me.
Yeah. And a debate means that we have a free-form conversation about it. And then you have one final minute at the end to lump everything together and to give a final plea out to the voters. That is what the show was. In fact, we started doing the debate before we did the closing arguments. So the closing arguments just happened in the last few episodes. And that was a newer thing, but the debate is really what Ghostly's all about.
He is in debate mode. He's going to debate everything. He's debating the debating and the closing and the arguments and the.
Yeah,
Okay, you're in your zone.
I am definitely zoning. Okay, but I think it is time for our closing arguments. And here's the thing: I am fighting two people. You guys each get a minute, so you guys have 2 minutes. I really think that I should get more than 1 minute.
We can give you 2 minutes if you'd like.
How about like a minute and 30 seconds?
Okay.
Even though I won't need it, but yeah, like last week. All right, so Rebecca, you are up first.
Okay.
You have 1 minute to give a final plea out to the voters.
Okay.
We cannot debate anything that you say in this 1 minute. You are clear to say whatever you want. My focus will not be on debating your closing argument. I already have my closing argument written.
Okay.
So I'm going to set the timer. Let me
Okay.
know when you are ready.
I'm ready. Did you say go?
Yes?
Okay.
Okay, here, we'll start it over again then. Let me know when you're ready.
Okay.
And go.
All right. So I believe that there are hauntings associated with the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. It was a monumental event. There is a lot of psychic energy that has been focused on this event. It's something that's known all over the world, even if people don't know all the stories. And certainly in Chicago, it was huge. So I do think that Capone was haunted. Now, we could say it was in his own mind, or maybe he actually had a ghost, but I certainly think he was haunted in his own way. And I absolutely have been convinced by Mondo's photo that there is energy at the location because that photo is unbelievable. And there's just, again, too many reports of people walking by and seeing and hearing things. And I don't think it's the old folks I mean, seriously, they're in a brick building. You're not hearing them screaming. If people could hear screaming from the old folks' home, trust me, that wouldn't exist anymore. Jeez. All right, I'm done. I don't need any more time.
Oh, well, your minute is up right now anyway. So.
Okay.
All right. I think now it's Mondo's time.
It's Mondo's turn? All right,
So-
I'm going to time you, Mondo.
Okay, make sure you keep it at 1 minute because
I will.
you know he's trying here to push the boundaries as it is. So.
I'm going to
Okay.
keep it simple.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Okay.
That sounds good. Okay, are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, here we go. And go.
Well, I think that there's just too many things that have happened, or people are saying things about that site for it not to have some type of energy. And as far as Al Capone goes and Alcatraz and having syphilis and everything, it's funny that he saw Jimmy throughout all this. So during his advanced time, you know, also while he was in jail. So, I mean, the one constant was that he was haunted by this guy named Jimmy, you know. As far as my photo, take a look at it and judge for yourself. Can I drop this?
Wow. All right.
No, you cannot drop
You only
the
took
mic.
30 seconds. Nice.
All right.
So you want a minute and a half? So that's what you feel you need?
yes, I think I might need. How about a minute and 15 seconds?
I'm going to give you a minute and a half. You don't have to use it
Okay, I don't think I will.
all. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
And go.
I think that we can all agree that Capone's sighting could either be guilt or is raging syphilis. So I won't waste time with this one. The people passing by and hearing noises, I didn't hear anything when I was there, so I can't really explain this, but I don't believe this is supernatural. Also, it's across the street from a busy pizza place that has a 3-hour wait that people could be hearing them screaming. The bricks are purely legend, and we can't say that they wouldn't have had bad luck if they didn't have these bricks. Besides, if all of these bricks are returned and we don't know where they are now except for the Mobster Museum, all we'd have to do is find a man with the worst case of bad luck and we'd know exactly where they are. As for Mondo's picture, I think that there is so many other possibilities as to what this light dancing around could be. I think it's naive for us just to assume that it's an orb because of the site at which the picture was taken. We'd need to go through every single picture that Mondo took on his cell phone and give them all the same scrutiny that he gave the picture because of the location. Done.
Okay. He did do that.
I did.
No.
Oh, he did.
He did.
We would need to do that.
Oh.
And by the way, this is closing arguments.
Okay,
We can't debate it.
Sorry.
But no, I'm saying that we would need to go through the same
okay.
scrutiny that he's asking us to go through for this particular picture.
Gotcha. Okay.
And I'm sure Mondo doesn't want us to look at all the pictures on his phone.
No, you're welcome to it.
All right,
Wow.
I'm going to be doing that for the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, quite a few.
Okay. So that brings us to the end.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks
Really
for having
appreciate
me.
it.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty awesome.
Yeah. So
And-
what's going on with you? Do you have anything to push?
Yeah, my wife, Halloween Jean, I don't want to push her, but I will tell everybody about it. And
Yeah.
she has a website that's really cool and her Facebook page, and it's HalloweenJeans.com. And you can find her on Facebook at Haunted Emporium. And I know it sounds like just, ghostly, but she covers a lot of music and oddities
does, yeah.
in Chicago. And, she is also helpful to a lot of bands and getting them a start and getting other people to listen to music that they otherwise wouldn't have heard.
Yeah, it's an awesome site. I really like it. I like the magazine. I like all about it, and we've talked about it on this podcast before.
Yeah.
We're really big supporters of her.
That's awesome. She works really hard at it. And I mean, for anybody that's interested in submitting music to her or something, just contact her that way.
Oh, and I have one more thing to ask from you. Can you do me a favor and read my T-shirt out loud?
Wait a minute. 2.5 billion smartphones, still zero evidence for ghosts.
Except that
And
you
what does it say at the end?
have that.
I can't read it.
Go figure, I think.
Go figure.
Well, yeah.
Go figure. So still zero evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, just thought I'd end with that. If you want me to read your shirt, I could read your shirt too.
Yeah, it doesn't say anything
Oh, okay.
in that. But I would like you to look at my photo
No,
again?
we're going to put it on the website,
Yeah.
and we're going to ask people to look at it.
Awesome.
The people
Absolutely.
decide on this podcast. It's not just me, even though Team Skeptic, hashtag Team Skeptic, pretty much wins the debate every single week.
No, not every week. Definitely not.
Just about.
So Team
Just
Believer,
about.
let's get out there and
Hashtag.
vote. Hashtag
Team
Team Believer.
Believer.
So we will definitely have Mondo's photo, a little video, really.
Yeah.
And a poll for that. And then we'll just have a general one for the haunting of
Yeah.
the site.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So our next episode will be in honor of President's Day, and we will have a presidential ghost story for you, and it does not involve Trump, actually.
No, I am so excited about this.
Yeah.
It takes us a little bit outside of Chicago, which is good for us. And it's involving the greatest president. So,
Well,
one of the.
Well, don't give too much away. I know you're a big Andrew Jackson fan, so don't give too much away. But this will be coming out on February 20th.
Yes.
We're going to ask that you stick around till after the music at the end, because we are going to be releasing our contest
Yay, it's time.
information.
Yeah.
And ways that you could win.
Yes.
Dead on Paper. Dead on Paper is an amazing website. They have amazing products. I love them.
Mm-hmm.
They are amazing. I carry a Dead on Paper coin with me every single day.
No, like you actually purchase products for yourself.
Yes.
And
Before
then
I even reached out to
decided,
them.
oh, these would be great to work with for.
And it was me that
Ghostly.
reached out to them.
Yeah.
They didn't come to me.
Yeah.
I went to them.
No, we
So,
really do like these products.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will be talking about that after the outro. We're doing this so that we have something that we could put in every episode, and we could record it, and we don't have to keep talking about it. So we can get
we're
all the
gonna
details
keep talking
out.
about it. Don't worry. And you're gonna hear more about us being at C2E2.
Yeah, you say that really weird.
It's very exciting. I'm excited. I've never been.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much for listening. Remember to stay after the music for more details. Bye.
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 All right, now for the contest details. We'd really like to thank you for listening and supporting Ghostly, and we wanted to find a way to give back to you.
So we contacted Dead on Paper and asked them if they'd like to partner with us on a few contests.
Yeah, Dead on Paper is one of my favorite companies, Rebecca. I don't know if you knew that.
I've heard tell.
Yeah, you have to see their products, though, to really understand and appreciate what they do.
They make quality art in a very unique way. They make coins, which Pat carries every day with him.
Every day.
Every day. Playing and tarot cards. They're like dual function cards. They do both. It's great. And pins.
Yeah, it's just incredible, the merchandise that they have. They went way beyond what I could have ever imagined by giving us so much merchandise to give away. So we broke this down into a few contests, and we will be releasing more contests in the next few episodes leading up to C2E2.
All of these contests start on February 6th and end on March 24th, 2019.
Oh, that's the end of C2E2, right?
Surprise!
Yeah, because Ghostly will be at C2E2, and we
So-
hope to see you there.
Yes.
So the first contest, we're going to call this the grand prize. For this contest, we are asking for the very best ghost story. And all you have to do is send us an email at info@ghostlypodcast.com with your ghost story.
Yes. Then on March 25th, we will put every story on our website and start a poll for the listeners, that's you guys, to vote on which one you would like to hear on a future episode of Ghostly. It's up to you, the winner, if you would like to come on the podcast and tell your story, or we could just read it for you.
Yeah. What was the other thing you were going to say about this?
yeah.
one?
I did want to make sure it was clear that this is a ghost story that's true,
Not true, but okay.
believed,
believed to be true by
believed
someone.
to be true, something that either happened to you or it could be something that happened to someone you know, but it's not like a pure fictional ghost story.
Yeah. So the next contest is open to anyone with Facebook.
Oh, all right.
What you would need to do is go to the website, which is https://ghostlypodcast.com/dead on paper. All one word for that, dead on paper.
Yeah, it's a little tricky. Unfortunately, some browsers will automatically add www when you type in a website. Even if you didn't type www, it adds it. So
Yeah.
just check. If for some reason you can't get on the site, if it added a www, just take that out.
Just take it out. Yep.
So https://ghostlypodcast.com/dead on paper.
Yeah. And then on that page, there's going to be links to like Ghostly's Facebook page and Dead on Paper's Facebook page. And each one of them will give you a certain amount of points to enter into the contest.
Mm-hmm. So going to our website is the only way that we can track the Facebook likes. So you need to go to our website. What was it again?
https://ghostlypodcast.com/dead on paper.
Right. So you have to go there and like our pages through that site in order to be entered into the contest.
Yeah, if you just randomly like it on Facebook, we have no way of knowing that you did.
Yeah. So just make sure you go out to our site and like, make sure you've liked both pages, and then it'll give you the opportunity to enter.
And make sure that you listen to the next couple of episodes because there's going to be more contest. There's going to be a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. Chances to maybe meet us.
What?
I know.
That's not the prize. I mean, you could meet us. I mean, that is a prize.
Well, maybe. I don't know. It's either that or a punishment. I'm not sure.
All right. Thank you guys very much. And we hope to hear from you with your ghost story.
Can't wait to read them.
All right. Bye.
Bye.